You're now watching the Mike Missanelli podcast on the BetRivers Network.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Missanelli podcast. It's been a long time since we last talked to you. It seems like forever, but we're doing this podcast on Tuesday, June 4th. It's about podcast 192, but after one, who counts? It is brought to us by BetRivers. A lot of stuff to talk about. So first of all, let me just tweak you on the betting lines for BetRivers on the NBA Finals. You get the Boston Celtics and over minus 210, I believe. They are a favorite to win the series over the Dallas Mavericks. In Game 1, they are a 6-point favorite. I know a lot of people say, well, this is the year Boston wins the whole thing, so I'm going to bet on Boston. Not so fast, my friend. This Dallas team, I don't know how they get it done, but they've got two superstars and a bunch of role players that seem to be buying in. So I don't know who to go with here on the series. My assumption is Boston eventually wins it, and maybe they have to win it in 7 games. But Game 1, I certainly like the Mavs getting 6 points because there's a lot of idle time. And when you have a lot of idle time, you're usually not sharp in Game 1. I think Boston will win, but if Dallas is going to steal a game, it might be Game 1. I think the number is good for you to bet Dallas. So, and we'll talk about that a little later in the program here. But, of course, the main topic, your Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, you talk about a team that looks destined to win the whole thing this year. It's got to be this team, and knock on wood for that. The Phillies have the best record in baseball right now. They are number one in the power rankings, every power rankings that you can find, ESPN, The Athletic. And last night they opened a series against a good team. All right, Milwaukee Brewers are a good team, so we've been lamenting the fact they haven't really played anybody, but they beat the Brewers last night behind Zack Wheeler 3-1, and it was, of course, the return of Rhys Hoskins, who hits a home run in the game, steals a base, gets thrown out to play. Very entertaining for Rhys to come back that way, and it's a very interesting phenomenon with Rhys Hoskins because, you know, he comes back as this conquering hero, and I started to think, you know, had he not hit that home run and did the bat slam, I don't know if we would have been that receptive. Because the fact of the matter is, he wasn't really accepted towards the end of his career. He was booed. People hated the way he played defense. He got into slumps that people booed. And he wasn't really universally accepted. And he hits the home run, slams the bat, and they don't re-sign him. And I think that a lot of Philly fans have gone overboard with their appreciation of Rhys Hoskins, but it is what it is. They want to appreciate a player. He comes back. They appreciate him. He acknowledged it. It was all good night. But here's the thing that dawns on me about the Phillies, and we'll get inside this game in a minute. What dawns on me about the Phillies is that I've never seen a team that likes each other as much as this team. And there's a couple examples last night. There was a pop-up to third base. And Bohm caught it, and Sosa was behind him, and he, faked the catch. And then they turn to each other, and they laugh, and they're happy, and they're jogging in. I'm going, this is really strange that these guys goof around like that. And you know, that's a team that's really unified and likes each other and feels the leeway to goof around like that. And the other thing, actually, it happened before that pop fly, and they get the double play, an insane double play that was created by JT Realmuto, a ground ball back to the pitcher, and Wheeler threw it in the dirt, and JT scooped it and on his knees, threw out the guy at first base. And in the dugout afterwards, you get these hugs and laughing and hugs. But these guys are having a blast playing the game, and they really like each other. To say nothing of the other night on Sunday Night Baseball, when Bryson Stott is mic'd up, and he reveals to a national audience that Bohm's nickname is Raffy because he looks like a giraffe. Now, in most clubhouses, you see a guy who looks like a giraffe. That could be considered an insult. But here's a guy who doesn't care that people call him Raffy because he looks like a giraffe. And I think all these little things, when you add them up, is a team that really likes each other and pulls for each other. And that goes a really long way when you start to get towards the end of the summer and you get into August and September. And if you like each other, you fight for each other. And I think that's been proven. All the guys that seem to come up in this system deliver. Like Sosa's been amazing as a fill-in player. Last night they bring up David Dahl because they've got some injury problems now with Marsh and his hamstring and Cody Clemens and his back, wherever he is. They bring up David Dahl and Weston Wilson. Now, David Dahl, a lot of people don't know, was an all-star in 2019 for the Colorado Rockies. In fact, he was a number 1 pick in the draft by the Rockies way back when. So all of a sudden he comes up, he hits a double and a home run his first 2 at-bats. Now, you come up and if it's a team that's miserable, you may play with a little bit of fear. But when a team accepts you and you've been in spring training with them and you feel comfortable enough to go out there and swing freely and you rake a double and a bomb, that's pretty amazing stuff. So there's 2 things that I look at because I'm a Philadelphian. Trey Turner is still not ready to come back. And when he comes back, I don't know if he's set up for failure or not. That's how well this team is playing, that a perennial all-star, an MVP candidate like Trey Turner, could actually come back and cause some discomfort because Sosa's playing so well. Now, Philadelphia fans will think that, but there's also the other side of that where they overreact to stuff. And I've got to do this because I think it's the state of sports talk radio all over Philadelphia and elsewhere with these this proliferation of hot takes, which might not even be hot takes. They might just be ignorant comments because certain sports talk hosts really don't understand the games because they've never really had experience in playing the game. So there's a certain sports talk host who does a midday show who actually fueled the fire of having Trey Turner play right field when he comes back and have Sosa be the shortstop. Now, if that's not one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard, it's amazing how certain fans, but people who are supposed to be experts on the radio, don't have enough knowledge to think that, this is Little League Baseball, where you stick a guy in right field and it's no big deal. And, that's no big deal. He's an MVP candidate. He can play right field. It's idiotic. But I'm getting off the track here. Because that's the one concern I have when Turner comes back. He doesn't hit right away. You start to get this little angst going on. And maybe some sports talk hosts will have to call for another standing ovation, whatever. I see this coming like in a crystal ball. And then the other thing is the constant angst of Taijuan Walker, who's not a great pitcher, but he's an adequate 4th starter. And the problem with people is they put in the fact that Turnbull is a better pitcher than Taijuan Walker. But you're missing the point here. Because while Turnbull could do an adequate job as a starting pitcher, Taijuan Walker probably won't do an adequate job in the bullpen when you need somebody. So you got to factor in all these little things and not just react with your knee jerk and say, well, Turnbull's got to be in a rotation, Taijuan Walker's got to be demoted. And what do you do with Taijuan Walker? You waste the guy. You're not going to cut him. You're on the hook for a lot of money with this guy. You're a good enough team where you can overcome an occasional bad outing by your 4th starter, who's only the 4th starter because they want to put the right-hander in between 2 left-handers. Christopher Sanchez has to stay as the 5th starter. Your 4th starter has to be a right-handed pitcher. And for the time being, let it be Taijuan Walker until he really melts down. We are in this position now where we expect perfection. They're the number 1 freaking team in baseball here. We got to worry about Taijuan Walker only giving you 5 innings or 6 innings and getting lit up maybe in the 3rd. This team's good enough to overcome that. So I caution Philly fans, accept what you have right now. And stop trying to overthink it, because you can't. This team is good, and one thing that Philadelphia knows is that when a team is good, we can see it. They're good. We don't have to create angst when we have a good team. The Phillies have kind of done all they could to put this team together to be a contender. Now, do they need a tweak here or there? Yeah, they could use another right-handed bullpen guy. Or maybe they can use a backup outfielder because Dahl is a left-handed hitter, and what you don't need is another left-handed hitter. So maybe Dahl's not long for this roster, and Weston Wilson probably isn't adequate enough. So I would think you would like to go out and get some right-handed guy who's a legitimate outfielder to help this whole situation. Now let's get back to Rhys Hoskins. I was not happy to see him go. And for one reason. Because when you look at the situation, you're trying to figure out what weaknesses are on the Phillies. Well, there's a weakness right now in right field because the guy even though he's kind of come out of it a little bit, he's not a consistent enough hitter. And you still need a right-handed bat in your lineup. And Rhys Hoskins was that necessary power right-handed hitter in between the lefties in your lineup. And I always had the idea that they really should have signed him for 1 year and stopped worrying about Bryce Harper playing right field. Bryce Harper could have played right field for a season. If you wanted to move him to first base, you had plenty of time to move him to first base. But they made the move, and things are the way they are, and he's gone, and now he comes back as a Milwaukee Brewer. And it's really not going to, listen, is it hurting the Phillies? You can't make the case that it's really hurting the Phillies. At the time, I wish they would have done that, though, because I wasn't afraid to send Bryce Harper back out to right field. But let bygones be bygones. Now, this is the team you have. Bryce Harper is the everyday right fielder, first baseman, but your everyday right fielder is not producing at a high level. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. A lot of people say that. I don't even know what that saying means, but it sounded like it was appropriate. So let me bring producer Darren in here. Darren, was the hullabaloo for Rhys Hoskins coming back overdone in your opinion?
I'll tell you exactly why I think. That Magic run 2 years ago when they went to the World Series, there were two moments. And if you ask not 95, not 90, 100% of Phillies fans to name two moments from that entire run, they are Harper hitting the home run to send him to the World Series in the NLCS, and the NLDS, the home run by Hoskins with the bat spike. 100% of Phillies fans attribute those two moments to that run. And without that, it's not half. He doesn't get half the ovation. And I was there last night, and it was a great ovation. And by the way, when he hit the home run, it's all boos.
Yeah, they booed him, and they booed Chase too when that happened. With Chase Utley, when he came back as a Dodger. I mean, that's Phillies fans' way of kind of
endearing themselves.
They're not really seriously booing. They're just saying, one of those little deals. Yeah. But I remember the days when, my God, fans hated Rhys Hoskins.
He was vilified. Merciless.
They vilified him. They vilified him as a fielder. They vilified him as a guy who would go into slumps. And all of a sudden, he's a conquering hero. Well, hey, listen, we forgive here. And it takes maybe one moment to forgive. You know, it takes a moment like Trey had last year or Alec Boehm had with the I Hate This City. And we forgive when they do something really well. And so he had the big home run in the playoffs and the bat spike, and it was played all over the world. And so that fueled
I'll add, when it comes to volume, I was at both those games 2 years ago. And when Harper hit the home run and – definitely the bat spike against the Braves. That was a day game. That was the loudest I have ever heard that ballpark. I mean, it was shaking like the link when the Eagles play the Cowboys. It was shaking. It was awesome.
Yeah, so good for him. Listen, he's a good guy, and he was a great teammate and all that kind of stuff. So at least we save our adulation for good people, good players who gave you certain moments. And, you think back to it when he came up when the Phillies were lousy, and he started off with that home run spree. So I think he got on people's good side right away. And I remember loving his swing. It was a one-piece swing where he just held it back calmly, and he just drove through the ball. And then he got into a slump, and they messed with him. They told him to lower his hands and all that kind of thing. And I remember talking to him about it, and you could tell he was uncomfortable about it. And I talked on the air about that was a really terrible move because when you have a guy with a pure swing, a pure power hitting swing, you don't tweak it. You just let him fight through it. But anyway, congratulations to Rhys Hoskins. The Phillies beat a good team last night. Milwaukee's a good team. Phillies handled them 3-1, and the series continues. All right, let's move on to another hot-button issue that's still a hot-button issue, and it involves Caitlin Clark, who got clocked by Chennedy Carter in a game, and just got flat out knocked off her pins. This is stuff that Draymond Green does in the NBA on a regular basis, and for some reason the officials didn't catch it. It's a blatant technical foul or a flagrant foul, and instead it turns into cause de celeb and a referendum on how Caitlin Clark is getting picked on in the WNBA. First of all, here's my biggest problem with that whole thing. Not that Chennedy Carter did that, because sometimes in the heat of battle, and you know the backstory, they all resent her, and I'll get into that in a second. But those kind of things are usually taken care of with a flagrant foul. But when those kind of things happen, and I don't know how things happen in the WNBA, but I know in the NBA, if that happened, there would be teammates that would have got right in Chennedy Carter's face to back up your teammate. And I didn't see any of that. Now, that tells me two things. Either the WNBA is not of that mindset yet, or that this is a bad team. This is not a team of competitors. And maybe that's why they lose. The first thing the player nearest that play should have done was gotten that girl's face and stuck up for your teammates. And the fact that they didn't, maybe they resent their own teammate. And now the other side of this, and I don't really buy into the side that she's owed a debt of gratitude because she got all the players charter flights and she's going to raise their salaries and all that. I look at it fundamentally. Competitors see the teammate knocked down, stick up for your damn teammate. That's what I don't get. But this now has taken, it has a 1,000 legs, this story. And I can tell you, and I called it from the jump, she's coming into this league as the heralded, privileged white player. There's no question in my mind that there's a racial angle to this. And I can understand the racial angle. Black people are angry at white people to a large extent. And so in one area that black women and black people in general have conquered, basketball, here comes this adulation of a white star reminiscent of the great white hope in boxing. And so there's a little bit of resentment to that. The players aren't looking at Caitlin Clark like, oh my God, she's so wonderful for the league. She's going to increase our set. They're looking at somebody who has come into this league privileged, who really hasn't earned her stripes in the WNBA, getting a $30 million contract, getting all kinds of endorsements, becoming the great white hope. There's a natural resentment to that. And there's a natural jealousy to that. So all this stuff does not surprise me that's going on. And for the people to go, oh, poor Caitlin Clark, they ought to legislate, blah, blah, blah. No, they don't. She's coming in this league taking her licks. And she's taking her licks for valid reasons. And now, most people look at it as juvenile. But it is the nature of competition. It's like in any profession, if you're an accomplished person, in sales or whatever, and this golden boy comes in, even talk radio. You've paid your dues. You've been a legend for a lot of years, and some young punk comes in and gets all this adulation. There's going to be a natural resentment to that and a natural jealousy because the people who have accomplished in their profession have done it for a long period of time, and they did not get the adulation that you're getting now before you deserve it. It's really a natural phenomenon. I don't feel sorry for Caitlin Clark. I just look at it like she got her ass knocked down and somebody should have got in Chennedy Carter's face as a teammate. And I resented that more than anything else. Darren, your thoughts?
To me, listen, I'm not going to pretend to know I understand that world. But as far as the one thing that I think is starting to get on my nerves a little bit is I feel like she's playing the victim card a little bit too much. And
I don't think she's
people are playing it for her.
I think the people are playing it for her.
Right.
For her.
And you're right. Their teammates, if I'm her teammate, like that was one thing that stuck out to me. She got the snot knocked out of her underneath the basket, and no one did anything about it. Like if that's a men's game, there's somebody in that guy's face right away.
And listen, that goes to the state of I don't know what this coach is all about, but this coach should have demanded and should have given that team hell, those teammates, after that happened. There was no response. Look at baseball, for crying out loud. You throw near a guy's head, the bullpen rushes out.
Yeah, that was my thinking exactly. No one on her team, none of her coaches, no one stood up for her in that moment at all. And maybe that's because they're soft. Or maybe that's because they agree with everybody else.
Maybe they don't like her.
Yeah.
Maybe her own teammates don't like her. I don't know what it is. This girl has come in here with not too much entitlement, but a lot of entitlement. Now, did she deserve that? Yes. She was a phenomenal player. This Angel Rhys keeps yapping and, people come to see me too. Well, guess what? Everybody loves the long ball. This girl shot 35-footers and made them. That was the phenomenon. If it was a player of any color who was doing that, like Pete Maravich did it way back in the day, Angel Rhys not making 35-footers. That's the charm and the attraction of Caitlin Clark. Nobody ever saw that before. So that's why she comes into this league with entitlement. But from the jump, I wasn't conned that she was going to dominate the WNBA. These are grown women in that league. And you don't come in, and she's frail. Let's face it. On the college level, she can dominate. In that league, she's not going to dominate right away. She's got to get a lot stronger. But this, we have to change the commissioner's got to step in. It's a lot of horse crap. Come on. The one conclusion that you can come to without having to go into very different, deeper channels is this girl abused her. Boom. Somebody get in that girl's face. She's your star player. Let's go. Bryce Harper got thrown out the other day. Or he didn't get thrown out, but the ball came out, hit his bat handle. His helmet flew off and broke. Oh my God. You don't do that to Bryce. Well, you don't do that to Bryce because he's Bryce. And everybody jumps out, blah, blah, blah. Well, this girl, guess what? Your team stinks, and she's the meal ticket for your entire team. Stick up for the girl. Instead of getting into the other things about how entitled she is coming into the league. We know that. We know there's jealousy for that. And we know there could be a racial angle to that. If you really want to open your mind to it and understand it, both things could be true. All right. There you go. That's Caitlin Clark's saga. It's still being discussed. I mean, it's still going on. This girl, I tell you, the one thing she gives to the WNBA is people talk about the WNBA, and they never talked about it before. So I'm sure the league is pretty happy, no matter if it's negative pub or positive pub. All right, NBA playoff preview. Very interesting subplots here in the NBA finals because you got Kyrie coming back to Boston where they loathe him. I mean, there is a visceral hate for Kyrie Irving in Boston 10 times more than in Philadelphia for Ben Simmons. Because Kyrie Irving is still a viable player. And he's going to come back as a member of the Dallas Mavericks after he scorned the Boston Celtics after saying that he wanted to be a Celtic for life. And they're going to let him have it. Now, I don't think that he's fazed by any of that because he's in a streak now where he's just balling and not worrying about all his other craziness. So he and Porzingis now. Porzingis, who almost had the same kind of situation in Dallas, now playing for Boston, and he's probably going to be able to play in this series, in game one even, and Kyrie. They're great angles. But also, the star angles are here. You got Kyrie and Luka, who might be the best player in the game, and you got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and that Boston Celtic juggernaut that just shoots threes, and how's Dallas going to be able to defend them? But I can't count out Dallas in this series. I've seen Boston in flimsy times where they can come out and completely you don't recognize what they are as a great team. So that's why I think Dallas can sting them a little bit and take this to a game 7. Now, in Boston, in game 7, I wouldn't expect Dallas to win. But I think this is going to be a really good series, and we're going to get to enjoy Luka because I don't think a lot of people have really seen a lot of Luka Doncic. I look at him and I go, man, he looks slow. He looks fat, and yet he just kills motherfuckers. I mean, he just does, and it's really a pleasure to watch. I mean, when he beats a screen and he gets the defender on his back, much like Jalen Brunson, he's lethal because he's got two monsters that can dunk, and Daniel Gafford, and then well, God, I forget his name, but come on, man, give me his name, the local kid. Derek Lively. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Derek.
I'm here for you.
You just come up with names like that.
When it comes to basketball.
Thank you. Derek Lively. In any event, it's going to be a really fun series to watch. Now, the NHL Finals. I always said that there's nothing better than the NHL playoffs. And a lot of people look at me as a hockey hater and they, what? Those guys go at each other with such a furor. That is, I mean, have you watched any of the NHL playoffs? I don't think anybody did. Nobody even talks about the NHL. Now you got Edmonton and Florida, and people are going to talk less about it. But, like, what is the delay here? They're not going to play until Saturday. The NBA Finals, we've been waiting enough for the NBA Finals. They start, obviously, the game on Thursday. The NHL playoffs, Saturday? I mean, what's going on? People are going to even forget the NHL is even a league if we've got to wait 6 days for the NHL Finals. What's up with that, Darren? You're a big hockey.
To me,
have you been watching the NHL
hockey.
Playoffs?
I have. My nephew is a trainer for the Dallas Stars, so I watching the Western Conference.
What's his name?
He's in the Stars organization. So his name is Michael Degatano.
Oh,
he is the head trainer. He's a Degatano. Michael. He's the head trainer for the Texas Stars of Austin, which is the AHL team for the Dallas Stars. They've had a couple of their guys up with the big club for the playoffs, so he's been with them. Oh. So if any of his guys go in, he works on his guys.
Is that your brother's son?
Yeah, it's Tommy's son.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. He was the goaltender at Penn State. You've seen Michael's stuff before.
You know, there is a chick Degatano that plays for the Penn State baseball team.
That is not
a relation.
Surprisingly,
not a relation to you?
Maybe down the line.
By the way, I forgot to mention the Penn State baseball team. Penn State obviously now is a baseball school because
obviously
they went to the Big Ten Finals after being the 8th seed in the playoffs. They lost to Michigan in a heartbreaker,
right?
And they didn't make the NCAA tournament. So, but they had a great year. But Penn State baseball is on the way up, my friend, with the new coach and the whole bit. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching the Mike Missanelli podcast, brought to us by BetRivers. Tell your friends and neighbors. You got to subscribe. All you got to do is subscribe for free. A lot of people say, how do I get your podcast? You Google my name. Mike Missanelli podcast. It'll pop up in whatever venue you want to listen to podcasts on, whether it's Apple iTunes, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Google. You just subscribe for free, and it'll come to your inbox all the time. You can email me, mike@mikemiss.com. You can get a Cameo shout-out. Just go to cameo.com. I will give you a personal shout-out for a small fee, very small fee. As very small. Many people are saying it's a very small fee. And what else? The winery. Check it out, man. We got music at the winery now. It's called Wine Down Wednesdays. We got live music out there on a beautiful outdoor patio. And then on Sundays, we have it from 2 to 5 music. Very serene Sunday where you just have a sip of wine amongst the vines. It's a really good time at Natali Vineyards in Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey. All right, everybody, have a great rest of the day. And we'll talk to you on Thursday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.